G'day there guys, spends all of his money on avocado toast and can no longer afford a home here. Back at it again with another episode of r/am I the a-hole. Now if you think I am, I want you to tell me down in the comments, sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and enjoy the video. Posted by user Kevin Levin Devon, titled, Am I the a-hole for abandoning a little girl that I'm supposed to look after? This happens in 2015. I went to the mall to have an early lunch with my friends, roam around a bit, visit some arcade, and play in the internet cafe. I was first to come, right when the doors open. Seeing that my friends aren't here yet, I decide to hang out at the food court, open up my laptop, and play Total War Shogun 2. After about 15 minutes, this kid approaches me. She was watching me play the game, and I don't mind as long as she doesn't bother me. Then her mother came. This woman looks pretty arrogant and somewhat rich, I think. Like the type who would marry a man for his money and spending the money like it was coming out of his anus. Anyway, she was telling her daughter that they need to go shopping. The kid didn't budge because she was very fascinated with the game. The kid was rather whiny about it. She asks me if I can watch over her child while she goes shopping, telling me that it'll take half an hour. She was saying all of this in English as if she were a fancy foreigner. I respectfully decline, explaining to her that at any moment I'll receive a phone call from my friends and won't stay here that long. She was insistent and put a 100 peso on the table in front of me, and then quickly walks away before I try to tell her that I'm not accepting this responsibility. Whatever, free money. Since the girl is still watching the battle in the screen unfolding and is very well behaved, I suppose it's not that bad. There's a possibility that me and my friends might eat here in the food court, so I decided to return to the game and wait for the woman. 30 minutes have passed and the woman is nowhere in sight, but still no phone call from my friend, so I keep playing. Then over half an hour had passed, my phone ringed. Answering it, my friend Jaden, not his real name by the way, is telling me that they're at Pizza Hut, and I happily say that I'll be there. As I packed up my laptop, I saw the girl look disappointing. Feeling a little bad that I'm just going to leave, I gave her a 150 peso note and told her that there's Quantum Arcade not too far from here. She happily takes it and went her merry way. Am I the a-hole for leaving that girl all alone? Yeah, entitled parents is a world of fantasy, and I'm sure this might be too, but dear Lord, if this is true, there's a special layer of hell for you to go to, buddy. And also for that mother. I don't think it's every day, bro, that everyone just abandons a kid like that. Come on. You suck, and the mum sucks. Everyone sucks here. That kid needs a new family. Update. Thinking about it now, I definitely should have left her with a security guard. Or at least taken her to the Quantum Arcade. There's a lot of security cameras there, and at least one security guard at the entrance, and tell him the situation. To ease your worries, the girl is fine. After about 1 PM, after finishing our pizzas, we go to the internet cafe, and what I saw was the girl was already reunited with her mother, who was talking to her phone, looking very angry. They didn't spot me, but I still hid behind my friends. Everyone sucks here. You should have immediately taken the child to security, or if there was no mall security, you could have called the police. Agreed. It's not his responsibility, but you can't just leave a kid by themselves. Should have talked to security or police before he left to meet up with his friends. But CPS should be called. She left her daughter with some strange kid. Info. How old was this little girl? It's not your responsibility to look after a stranger's child, but if she was only little, maybe telling a member of staff or something might have been the smarter move. About 11 or 12, I think. I didn't bother to ask her, sorry. You made her sound like she was around 4 to 5 years old. Most 11 to 12-year-olds don't need constant supervision. Though I still feel bad that I didn't at least tell an employee to keep an eye on her. Meh, unless it was in Hermes' store or something, I wouldn't worry about it. Posted by user Someone Something Rather, titled, Am I the a-hole for being mad at my husband for staying out until midnight when he left at 6 PM and said he'd only be out for a few drinks? Oh my god, haven't we all been there? Tonight, while I'm feeding our 2-year-old daughter dinner, my husband asks if he can go out for his friend's birthday for a few drinks. It's still a pandemic, so I make sure he'll be drinking outside and keeping social distancing, but say sure, go ahead. He leaves the house around 6 p.m. Isn't that sure go ahead like fine? It's a trap. It means you better not. You better not. You're in trouble. At 8:20, I ask for an update. He says, we haven't been served dinner yet. Apparently, since he didn't eat at home, I should have assumed he was getting dinner along with the drinks. Fine. I ask where he's eating, and he's at a fancy place we've never been to. I can't remember the last time we went to a fancy dinner together, let alone the last time I even went to a restaurant at all, since it's a pandemic, and they've only started opening restaurants back up. This irks me, because it would be nice if we went back out for the first time together. Still, fine. An hour later, he texts me he's paying the bill. It's 9:30 p.m. now, and I assume since he's paying the bill, he'll be home around 10 p.m. The restaurant is 20 minutes away. When I haven't heard from him by 10, I ask for an update. He says he's leaving now. 10:30 rolls around, so I call him. No answer. I called 2 more times, and no answer. 10 minutes later, he calls me back and says his friend just wanted a smoke, he'll leave soon. I tell him he can sleep in the guest room. He finally gets home around 11:30 p.m. When he gets home, he doesn't apologize and wonders why I'm upset. He actually takes a tone with me. Maybe I wouldn't be annoyed if this was a one-time occurrence, but before the pandemic, this happened once a month or so. We're not kids anymore. We're both in our 30s. Is it too much to expect him not to stay out past 10 p.m. on a work night? He does happy hours after work, goes golfing on the weekends, and then stays out until midnight hanging out with friends? On a work night? When I'm waiting for him, to come home? I never do anything for myself, and I feel like I'm inconveniencing him when I ask to. Maybe I'm missing something. I think he's the a-hole, but am I the a-hole? I guess my judgment here is you might be the a-hole, although I don't blame you for taking that attitude with him, because he's kind of escaping the kids and escaping responsibilities with you, all the time. Sounds like he's pushing his boundaries and pushing the envelope too much because he knows he can get away with it, which is a common behavior that we do see in couples and relationships. So you got to crack the whip like you have been, but your cracking the whip seems to be a bit more passive-aggressive. I think you need to go with the aggressive route and be like, yo, no. Not until we work out a fair share of who gets to go out and who stays here, okay? We got a 2-year-old daughter to be looking after. You can't be like a 20-year-old that's just graduated school and you're like, I'm out with the boys, we're gonna go partying. I get where she's coming from. But being passive-aggressive and not solving the issue makes you the a-hole too, because it's not getting anywhere. It's just reflecting poorly on both of you as parents of your 2-year-old. Edit. Thank you to everyone who responded, especially those who were supportive and understanding of my feelings as well as his. After reading all of these comments, some pretty hurtful, I realized that I too was in the wrong. This morning I went into the guest room and apologized to my husband. He apologized to me as well. For some additional background, I do feel like I do all the childcare and have expressed to him multiple times, but I don't put my foot down and make time for myself like I should. He isn't always home at 11:30 p.m. either. There have been nights when he's home at 2 a.m., and he hasn't been 100% honest with me all of the time either, like saying he's on his way home when he's not. We did start couples therapy last week for these and other reasons, but I appreciate that I have just as much work to do as he does. Please be kind, people. I'm not a nightmare, just a mother and a wife doing the best I can. I will try to do better communicating and ask him for the same. Everyone sucks here. Yes, OP was over the top with the amount of checking in, but apparently I'm the only person who thinks it's reasonable to expect your partner to communicate their plans when they leave you at home with a toddler. Expecting someone to come home within a few hours when they say they're just going out for a few drinks isn't setting a curfew. All he had to do was say, I'll probably be out late, I'll let you know when I'm leaving, instead of implying multiple times he was almost done and then staying out for hours and hours later. This is the thing. It sounds to me like he kept implying he wouldn't be out long at first, and that he was on his way later, so constantly checking when that turned out false is different than if they had discussed a late night out. If everything happened exactly as OP said, he basically lied. A few drinks is not the same as drinks and a fancy dinner, then hanging out till midnight. And he wasn't leaving all those times. Does OP suck for checking in, or was she put in a frustrating position? Even if the premise is that his night out is reasonable, negotiable with the toddler in play, there's no expectation either parent gets to stay out till midnight, I'd say unless the parties agree. He was super passive-aggressive and sneaky about it if he planned to stay out till midnight, have dinner, etc., but called it a few drinks at 6. OP was passive-aggressive too, by continuing to check in the vein that it was relatively okay when she maybe should have said directly, "When we discussed this, I thought you'd be gone a couple of hours for drinks, and I would like you to come home." And then explaining the secondary issue that she was hurt, he went to a fancy dinner without even mentioning it to her or thinking of her feelings. But I suspect those calling her a nag would find that direct communication just as bad. Her bad behavior in my eyes was not being direct. I don't have kids because I like my freedom, but you don't get to escape your responsibilities and party till midnight when you have a toddler unless your partner agrees, and she wasn't agreeing to that, and it seems like he knew it. Now, if he's usually a dedicated father and rarely goes out, maybe one could argue she should be gracious, but that also requires him being honest about the ask. The thing I'm hung up on is him telling OP he'd be home soon. Honestly, I'd be worried if my partner kept implying they'd be home soon and they didn't show up. Were they in an accident? Are they trashed and don't realize how much time has passed? And do I need to pick them up? Also, if you tell me you're coming home soon, I'll stay up and wait for you. If you're going to be out till midnight, tell me so I can go to bed and don't wait around. I think there are several issues to unpack here, but the biggest one to me is that the husband lied, and it sounds like does so with some regularity. All the other stuff stems from that, not the a-hole. If you want time for yourself, take it. Is he forcing you to hold yourself back from having your own time? He obviously feels no guilt at taking time for himself, and he shouldn't. Neither should you. Have him watch the kids while you go out and have fun. Don't try and control him. Stop being petty instead of communicating your needs properly. It's childish. Just take an equal amount of time for yourself. Tell him you're taking a weekend for yourself, then go. God, it sounds like my mum. She's always like that. She's like, alright, I'm going out. See you later. Where are you going, Mum? Why are you just disappearing? I'm taking a weekend for myself up at the coast. See you later. Posted by user Snoo72028. Titled, Am I the a-hole for wanting my son from an affair to attend my swearing-in ceremony? I will give some background because I do think it matters. I've been married to my wife for 12 years. About 5 years in, my wife started feeling like we were in a rut and emotionally neglected because I was working so much and she was left spending so much time taking care of our 2 kids. She started an emotional affair with a co-worker, which lasted for a few months before she confessed and ended it. I was really bothered by this because I know that for my wife, the emotional connection is as important as the physical, so it could not have been any worse if she physically cheated. We did not pursue therapy at that point. I thought I was okay, but the hurt continued to simmer and eventually led to me confiding in a colleague, someone in my line of work but not a co-worker/friend, which eventually turned into a physical affair. This is a dumpster fire. What? I did not feel like I was wrong at the time for doing this, since I felt like my wife's unfaithfulness was the cause. I was wrong. I don't deny this now. We had an affair for around 2 years. It was during that time that my partner got pregnant and gave birth to my son. He is now over 5 years old. I eventually confessed all of this to my wife after I started feeling guilty. He didn't start feeling guilty for 2 years? Things were bad for a long time, but we did get into therapy and have managed to work through our issues. In many ways, our relationship is now better than either of our affairs, and we have even since had another child. My wife has always been fine with me being active in my son's life, which is something I told her would have to be allowed if we were going to work things out, because it would not be fair to punish him for my failings. Up until now, that has worked well enough. I soon will be sworn in for a new position I am taking, and I'd plan to invite my son to watch, since my other children will be attending along with my wife. My wife freaked out when I told her my plans, and said if I did it, it would be like throwing my affair in her face. She thinks it is an a-hole move to invite him, but I think he has as much of a right to be there as my other kids. I can understand her view, but I think I would be the a-hole if I didn't invite him, but let my other kids come. My God! Do you just leave it at everyone sucks here? Everyone has something wrong with them. How is everyone okay with this situation? I don't understand. How are they cool with this? How did they solve this? Like, what therapy they're going to? Sign me up to that. That will solve all of my problems. I don't know what job he's being sworn into, probably Macca's manager. He's going up from, restaurant manager to a regional manager. So he's like, I want my son to be there to see me, but I also want my family A to be there too. Family B has to be there. I don't understand the importance of being sworn into a position. Why are you jeopardizing your already very rocky situation just for your son to be there? My brain's gonna explode. I don't want to talk on this anymore. I just think everyone sucks here, and best of luck to them for solving this. Everyone sucks here, except not your son. You're the a-hole for trying to spin the story where your wife's emotional affair of a few months is somehow equally problematic and the source of your own 2-year-long physical affair that produced a child. You literally make it sound like we both cheated when that is not the case. You say you don't deny you were wrong, but the way you've laid this out still reeks of denial of culpability. Your wife is slightly the a-hole for refusing to honor your agreement that your son would be a big part of your life. She's putting her own feelings of embarrassment about your affair above those of an innocent kid. As your son gets older and more aware of the circumstances, she's going to have to learn to deal with him being around without making him feel like a source of pain for her. That said, your son is 5. He does not care about a swearing-in ceremony. It will be boring for him and not something he's going to feel sad about missing out on. For this instance only, it seems you could keep the peace by keeping him at home. Yeah, the first part of OP describing his wife's affair really put me off, because she did not have sex and she fessed up, whereas he had sex and didn't confess until after his mistress got pregnant. It feels like he's trying to frame it to show how, see, she messed up too, when this is not the case. We did not need to know she emotionally cheated. Her affair has nothing to do with the current situation. Unfortunately, the situation of him including and excluding the kid is not going to stop here. What about other special events like birthday parties or Christmas? Does the wife expect him to exclude the kid from all of those as well? OP is not the a-hole for wanting to include his kid, but this situation, and all future ones, is 100% his fault, and everyone is suffering because of him. Yes, I agree the wife is the a-hole as to the issue at hand, but I couldn't let OP off the hook, given the fact, as you said, he is responsible for the whole situation in the first place. It's not even that OP had an affair for me, it's the way he's describing it, as if the wife started it, and it's her fault that is super a-holy. He said it could not have been any worse if she had physically cheated. Well, yes, actually, it could have been worse. She could have gotten pregnant with another man's child and paraded said child around everywhere, so all OP's friends and family were constantly reminded of that time she rode that sweet non-OP dick. What am I doing with my life? What led me to reading this? You had an affair, had a kid from that affair, and your wife has not only continued to stick with you, but also allowed you to be inactive in the life of the person you had an affair with. Give her this one. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. How does her flirting for a few months lead to a 2-year affair by you? You're the a-hole. Your wife did not cheat on you. Flirting with someone for a few months is not at all the same as fudging someone for 2 years. One is a normal human interaction that was cut off long before it led to any betrayal. The other is adultery that led to a child with your mistress, whom you rammed your dick into for 2 years. You're a crappy person, dude. It takes some next-level vindictiveness to cheat on your wife to punish her for developing a crush on a coworker, telling you about it, and then cutting off communication before any cheating occurred to save the relationship. In response to her open and honest and totally appropriate communication about said crush and its effect on your relationship, you vengeance conceived a child to punish her after ramming your dick into another woman for 2 years. That's screwed up. You are definitely the a-hole. They were so mad they spelt it definitately. Posted by user ThrowRA AmiTheA 45, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's cousin that I couldn't imagine being on Tinder in my 30s when she said that she couldn't imagine being a housewife since she needs to use her mind? Man, people are so mean. We were having dinner at my mother-in-law's home. It was my in-laws, us, and my husband's cousin, and my in-laws' neighbors. At one point, I was helping clean foot outside, and it was me and my husband's cousin Martha. I haven't talked to Martha since she got out of jail, much since our wedding, and a few FaceTime calls here and there. She's 36 to 38, works as a project manager for a bank. I myself am 31. After my husband and I had kids, I left my job to be a stay-at-home mum. We were talking, and Martha was just being abrasive, like she was trying to size me up. She starts asking me why I gave up on my career. She goes on to say that hers is super important for her, that she could never give it up, and that she would spend money on a nanny if she had to. And then goes on to say the whole housewife stuff wouldn't work for her because she really needs to use her mind. What is she, like Magneto or something? Dr. Strange-ass woman, like, wow. I was just getting offended this whole time, and even when I tried to change the topic, she brought it up. So I told her, yeah, well, I couldn't imagine being on Tinder in my 30s. Plus, for me, I really want to have kids early. After 35, there are a lot of risks of birth defects. I knew I touched a couple nerves, because her expressions just changed. She starts telling me that she could settle down if she wanted to. She just has high standards, and that the birth defect stuff is overstated. The arrogant demeanor she had before talking down to me changed quickly. I told my husband about it. He laughed, but said that my cousin is a bit rough around the edges, and I should have ignored her. He said the birth defects line went over the top. I don't think so. For me, I don't want her going around belittling other people's life choices. You know when you go to the zoo and you see a bunch of chimpanzees just chucking feces at each other? That's what we're doing here. They're both on the ground already. They're both as far down as it goes with their insult game. They both suck here. There's no going over the top once you start chucking feces at each other. Both of them suck, and they both know they suck. Everyone sucks here. I'm currently staying home as well, so I understand the judgment. Her comments were completely out of line, but so were yours. Your life, your choice. Her life, her choice. You could have said, those comments are hurtful, this is my choice to spend my time this way, rather than putting down her choices. Seriously, they're both solidly in their 30s, and this reads like a bunch of high school bullcrap. Nothing wrong with standing up for yourself, but for frick's sake, have a little bit of decorum. Opie says her comments struck a few nerves, but it sounds like Martha really touched a few nerves too. And that's just the tea, sis. Opie, your insecurity is showing. If you were secure in your decisions, you would tell Martha she was being rude and ask for an apology, not strike back with tasteless low blows the way you did. Everyone sucks here. She did start digging, but your Tinder line was funny, but then you took it to the birth defects, and that made you an a-hole too. I was going to say not have any biological kids at all, but decided to walk away from that. Oh my god! OP, you're terrible! I think if you were genuinely happy and secure with your circumstances, you wouldn't have even thought of a low blow like that. Everyone sucks here. First of all, yes, the birth defects thing was definitely over the top. Don't lie to yourself there. It was an objectively crappy thing to say. Outside of that, you both were crapping on the other person's life choices, so you're both a-holes. Especially because the risk increases from about 1% to 2%. It's definitely an increase, but not a dramatic one. It's actually from 0.5% to 1%. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you for that correction. I couldn't remember how minuscule it was, but I knew that 1% was in there somewhere. The risk for Down syndrome is more massive though. In your 20s, it's 1 in 100,000. Above 35, it's 1 in 400, and above 40, it's 1 in 100. Figures are from my embryology textbook, may not be 100% accurate because it's been a long time since I finished embryology. Posted by user SliceFun, titled, "Am I the a-hole for refusing to renegotiate a settlement that heavily favored me?" A few years ago, my estranged brother and I were awarded a settlement from a situation that we were both victims in, although objectively, I was affected more than him. It is basically hush money, but that's just life sometimes. I'm not getting into the crime here. We got paid an equal set amount in cash, and the rest in stock options. I know more about it than he does, and through the market, my decisions and what I chose received and continue to receive much more than he did. As a result, he ended up with less than $100,000 total, and I no longer need to work unless I want to. I am married and now have 2 young children. I own a home, I am able to be a stay-at-home mum for as long as I'd like, even if something happens to my husband. I am able to build healthy college funds and nest eggs for my kids. I can even afford someone to help me out at night, and a housekeeper, as my husband medically can't lose out on sleep. My brother and I aren't particularly close, and didn't grow up together, but we talk sometimes. He's figured out that things ended up being very uneven, and he's ticked. His life hasn't turned out well, and he is very poor and unstable. He's now demanding that I renegotiate the settlement to make it more fair to him. He's using our dead mother to try to guilt trip me. I don't want to renegotiate, and I don't legally have to. My childhood guardians support me, but I have relatives and friends on both sides. I would think our mother would want things to stay as they are, and would love to hear that her daughter was not only able to keep her children, but also raise them in ideal circumstances. If I renegotiate, I would lose the ability to stay at home and the cushion I can build for my children, as I would lose the dividends. It would ruin my life. Edit, the division was mostly preset. To way oversimplify, it's like we both got 20 stocks, but split differently. I'll put them in 3 categories: good, fine, and meh. My settlement was basically 10 good stocks, 5 fine stocks, 5 meh stocks, while he got 5 good stocks, 10 fine stocks, and 5 meh stocks. I had my father-in-law's advice and education. He was going on emotion. I'm gonna say not the a-hole for this one. You know, everyone has their own path in life, and he's downtrodden in life and looking for an easy out with you. I understand you can, and you're not obligated to. He's not actually entitled to that money that you have now, or those stock options. It sucks that it ended the way it did, but that's just life sometimes. I hope you're able to work things out, but life doesn't always work like that. But in this situation, you're not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. It's not your fault your brother isn't as knowledgeable as you in things that helped out. Also, if he's already broke again, chances are he isn't good with money and would waste and spend everything he would get in renegotiations. Life isn't fair, but sometimes that works in your favor. Technically, I had the advantage in the options segment, but a lot of his mistakes were due to poor education on it and bad decisions. Still, he got a 100k bonus to start his life. Don't know where you're from, but that's like college and down payment for a house where I live. I don't know where you live, but that's more than at least half a good house. But I live in the middle of bun-frick nowhere. Not the a-hole. If the settlement was dispersed equally and was originally agreed upon, you don't owe him. You're not responsible for how other people turn out. It sucks, but he's ultimately responsible for how his life turned out. The cash part was equal but small. The stock options are where the inequality happened. Are you saying they gave you, for a super oversimplified example, 10 different companies to pick from, and you grabbed Apple stock because you understood how valuable it is, or would be, and he picked a company that went nowhere? Could he have also taken the good stock, or did you pick first and took all the good stock? Somewhat. Although I got some higher percentages in better stocks, we both got a variety. He also rushed more to sell due to poor education, while I got a lot of advice that let me not make decisions on anxiety. Yeah, that doesn't sound like you manipulated the situation to get more than him. just that you made more informed choices and had the cards fall in a more favorable manner than he happened to. Not your fault. Posted by user AnonWidow321, titled, Am I the a-hole for not contributing to my older brother's wedding? A little backstory for setup. I was widowed a little over a year ago. My husband had a substantial life insurance policy as well as a successful business that I have recently sold. I have no financial issues. I can raise my daughter without worry. My older brother proposed to his girlfriend back in January. She's nice and seems to love my brother. We have had no issues in the past. COVID hit, so we haven't done family get-togethers or anything. Their wedding planning has been put on hold until recently. Our state has slowly started opening. No one has been sick, weather has been good, so my dad and stepmom decided to have a family dinner on their outdoor patio to discuss my brother's wedding, with my future sister-in-law's parents in attendance so they could all get on the same page. I tried to dip out because wedding planning isn't my thing. I eloped, but was told my presence was requested by future sister-in-law. My stepmom said she thought I was going to be asked to be a bridesmaid, which would have been a no, but that's besides the point. Dinner was uneventful, but afterwards, my future sister-in-law pulls out a 3-ring binder and starts handing out information packets about her wedding, when and where she wanted it, pictures of dresses she was considering, colors, ideas for catering, pictures of cakes, everything a well-prepared bride could come up with. My favorite page was list of expenses, how much she expected everyone to contribute. Her dad, her mum and stepdad, my dad and stepmom, my brother's mum, and me. I said, "You expect me to contribute? That's hilarious." I was met with a stern gaze from my brother. "Oh my god, you're serious?" "Yeah, that's not happening." Cue the meltdown from the bride-to-be. Her dad speaks up and tells her that she was already told that combined between both him and her mum and stepdad, she would be given $70,000 to do what she wanted. Just like they did for her sister. Whoa, they have money to throw. She started crying. My dad chimes in and says, "Yeah, between the 3 of us, we will pay for a nice rehearsal dinner for like 30 people, and an open beer and wine bar at the reception. That's it." She started screaming, like holding her hands over her ears and screaming, "Why is everyone trying to ruin my life?" So I said, "This is where I leave." She stands up and comes to me and gets in my face, telling me how it's all my fault. I have money, so I should be willing to spend it on her because she's gonna be family. There's not enough A's in that. It's usually like family. I just laughed, looked at my brother and said, "Good luck with all that," and walked out. My future sister-in-law blew up my phone for 2 days, calling me names and telling me how awful I am. I haven't talked to my brother, but my dad said the wedding planning has been put on hold while she re-evaluates whether she wants to marry into a selfish family. Lamau? I know in my heart I'm not the a-hole, but a friend of mine seems to think I should contribute just to keep the peace, which I don't really care at this point about, and my dad and stepmom agree with me. My other siblings do too, but are trying to stay out of it. Edit, because people keep asking, on top of the $70,000 her parents were willing to contribute, she wanted $50,000 from my dad and brother's mum and $30,000 from me. Yes, $150,000 for a wedding. Also, I think she had originally asked her parents for $80,000. Edit 2, this post blew up. I didn't expect it to, I just wanted to show my friend that keeping the peace was not a good idea. Thank you for all your replies, even the one that called me a narcissist and said I should contribute. My stepmom says she has some things to tell either tomorrow or Wednesday, whenever she can catch up. So if there is anything to update, I definitely will. Oh my god, who is this woman? I want $150,000, not for a wedding, I just want that money, Jesus, don't we all? I have nothing constructive to add to this, besides I am flabbergasted people like this still exist in 2020. Come on people, I thought we were better. OP not the a-hole, dear lord. Not the a-hole. Absolutely do not give any money to her or your brother. I honestly wouldn't even give an engagement or wedding gift at this point. She is so far beyond a bridezilla that your brother needs to truly rethink marrying her. The audacity of what she did is just baffling. She already has a promised $70,000 from her parents. That's a nice down payment on a house. It's one freaking day. When someone shows their true colors, believe them. This isn't going to be a one-time thing. This is who she is. Stand your ground. You are definitely not the a-hole. Do not give in just to keep the peace, or you will be doing it forever. I don't care if you have $5 million in the bank. No. Just no. It's funny because up until this point, she seemed normal. We weren't besties or anything, but we got along fine. This was such a change, but when someone shows their true cokers, believe them. I wouldn't spit on her if she was on a fire at this point. Oh my god. Not the a-hole. That woman is insane. Showing you a list of how much she expects you to pay for her wedding? I can't even imagine having a wedding that costs more than $70,000. Mine was $4,500, I think. Could be $45K, but there's a comma in the middle there. What does that mean? And I feel like we indulged. If she feels that she needs a wedding that costs more than $70,000, she's got real issues. Blaming you because you said something first is just poor judgment. And your father not standing up for you, or at least saying that he wouldn't pay whatever for her wedding regardless of if you said something, is him being an a-hole. I get why you can say hostile things. Dealing with that many a-holes in the family has got to make anyone hostile. I will defend my dad. He did lay into my brother and his fiancée after I left. He had already told my brother what the three of them would pay for, they being dad, stepmom, and my brother's mum. They just expected everyone to do what she wanted. This episode is doing my head in. It's already so late. I'm going to end it there. I hope you guys have a good night, day, sleep. Whatever you're up to today, tell me what you've been up to in the comments. I'd love to know. Hope outro Markee doesn't wake you up. Alright guys, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one today. Tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I would love you to subscribe because I love your face and I love seeing you here every single day that you are here in this video. I don't know what else to say today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the content. I do have a second channel that's called Markee2. Link should be up on the screen somewhere here if you don't have adblock installed. If you don't know where to find the channel, you can go to my main page. Just click on the Markee face and it should be on the right, somewhere there, or on channels if you're on phone. Hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.